One of the saying that the black man is always a suspect. Get me.
Yes.
And then when you come out as a woman to say, gender yaron can be very evil. And then when you say that, you are an empath. Pick me. We're the pick me girls.
Yes.
Because we want men to recognize us. Because court versus what you guys see in the media, two different worlds. The rape. We were at a party, and then he did this, he did that. Let the facts court. Do you know how many rape cases are fake?
So last week was an explosive week for the news cycle. We had bombshell after bombshell. And at the end of it all we needed was someone, a fellow South African, to have an honest and frank conversation with. So this past Sunday, it was only fitting that we did just that. We had our very first installment of Frankly Speaking. And thanks to all of you that watched, and thank you for all your comments. But the problem is, I'm not a lawmaker, right? Some of us, we think we understand and know what's going on. But then, 9:10. But then you wake up and everything has changed. You wake up to a South Africa that you thought you knew. It's a totally different one. With the sentencing of AFF leader Julius Malema, the suspension and subsequent arrest of Sergeant Fanie Nkosi, who more recently failed a bail application earlier in this week. We also had the JSC's overturning of the tribunal's finding in Judge Mbenenge's matter, and these are legal developments which carry central questions of justice, power, and accountability in South Africa. So, with all of that, with what you saw and heard and witnessed last week, we've brought someone to break down the legalese of these stories. They're an admitted attorney, a founder and director at Dubazana Attorneys. She's also a respected voice in public discourse.
Thank you for having me.
So I think maybe let's begin a little bit broadly, right? Because when you look at the current landscape, whether it be politically, economically, socially, what is the one thing that stands out the most for you now in terms of what is happening in the country? Because most of us don't know what's going on.
What's going on?
What's going on?
I think for me, finally, what happens in court is actually on the forefront, because usually the reporting would be snippets or a little paragraph here and there. So people don't really know the actual ins and outs of what a court process looks like. And the court of public opinion tends to just go crazy. And then when the technicalities and the rules of the court are explained, people go like, but that doesn't make sense. So this is what's happening currently when you look at what's happening in our courts that are now on display. People are now starting to ask questions, relevant questions, I think,
Yes.
to say, okay, so X is being charged with this, but we are finding that the result is Y. Where is it supposed to be like an A or something? And then you start to technically explain why we're here.
Almost like the law needs to be applied in uniformity, whereas it doesn't apply like that, because each case is judged by its merits, right? Because it's like,
100.
Mar now la tola 5 years, I tola 10 years, now I tola bail. Those are all the things that we're asking in the court of public opinion, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then now we are coming to say, you see, this is why this one is different from this one. This is why, because our law, it's not developed, it's not just legislature, it's not act number mamang of year something. It's also a case law. Our case law develops our law more than the acts themselves. So if legislature says whatever,
Yes.
and then we go to court based on legislature, we win the case based on our heads of argument when the case is getting closed.
Okay.
Why? Because we are relying on case law that has dealt with this particular act or this particular section of the act. And now we are saying in the High Court, Gopi said 1, 2, 3, 4. This is how they interpreted the law. Therefore, we can say that with the facts of that case and the manner in which the court decided the case there, my client can therefore walk. The case, Julius Malema,
Yes.
just now.
Yes.
If you heard the arguments, SC Ngaitobi, and the other attorney, they were basing cases on the discharge of a firearm
Yes.
in a public space,
Yes.
and what the resultant consequence was
At that time.
at the time,
Yes.
and one of which was an Eastern Cape High Court decision. That's very important,
Yes.
because this case is decided where? In the Eastern Cape.
So what jurisdiction?
Wanthola.
Lona. Yes.
Wanthola.
Okay.
Because if I quote in Johannesburg, case here, Eastern Cape, it has influence, but it's not binding on any lower court in Johannesburg.
Yes.
But if you're in the jurisdiction of that particular high court, if that high court made this decision, you are actually bound as a lower court to that decision. So that's why Hanaba Agua, they were saying, okay, the dispute is not whether or not a discharge was done. That's not where the issue is. The issue is the sentence should carry what makes sense. Because one of the cases that they cited, I think it's the very one at the Eastern Cape High Court, wherein the teenage boy died and the other one was wounded.
Yes.
And that person still got a suspended sentence. Monana, no one got injured.
Nobody died.
Nobody died. No property was damaged. Nothing of the sort. So why are we not dealing with it in the manner in which your high court in your jurisdiction has said we can follow?
So the scales of justice are skewed.
Wanthola.
The scales of justice.
Yes.
And would you then say that's why there was such a strong narrative towards racial discrimination, towards unfair treatment of Julius Malema, towards them saying that, but why isn't the law being applied in that uniformity that you speak about?
So yeah, I agree with you fully there, because he was not quiet about it either.
Not a chance.
Yeah.
It's in CIC. It's in CIC.
You know,
Yes.
so it also stemmed. You could hear it in her judgment. In fact, she said the words, actually, not you can hear it. She said the words that you are saying that you are being picked on by the court. No, sir. You picked on yourself all by yourself. That's what she's saying. She said, no one is only out of the crowd.
Yes.
You, with your behavior and the way you are, you are the one who's singling yourself out of the crowd.
That sounds personal, though.
Do you see where I'm going with this?
Though. Do your job. Whether you like me or you don't like me, do your job.
And my issue is that you say in your judgment, you are not holding him on a scale of somebody who is higher in the society and who has some sort of responsibility, who has following on one hand. On the other hand, you're going to say, on the days you are appearing in my court, people couldn't come and appear. People who had maintenance issues had to be turned back because you were here, and as a result, people could not come.
The tragedy is that this matter has also led to so many people that did not have access to this court on several days where this matter proceeded. Mothers could not approach the court for maintenance. They could not reach inside. Grandmothers could not come to the offices to apply for foster care or guardian appointment adoptions, domestic violence. Those people did not have access. And that is tragic. These are members of the community this court services on a daily basis.
That's what she said in her judgment. So now you're going like, but what is happening?
No.
If there's going to be any sort of scale you need to hold him to, you should hold him to the scale of the charge that he's facing. If he was, for example, somebody that had a Section 13 firearm license or a Section 16 or whatever, the standard is very high. We expect you to behave better than somebody who does not have a firearm license.
Yes.
It's the same as fraud. If you're an accountant, we're going to hold you at a higher standard.
Yes,
You know
because
better.
you should know. Psycha.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So we're not going to hold you on the same standard as somebody else who's saying 60 rand shop right.
Yeah.
It's not the same. You know better. And that is where my real issue with this case is. I am not saying that the discharge was right. absolutely wrong.
Yes.
I am not saying that him holding a gun that doesn't belong to him was correct. That is fine. He
Yes.
did all of that. My issue is that the co-accused, who is the licensed firearm holder,
Who should have never given him the gun in the first place.
was not only acquitted, but acquitted. 174. I think the people need to understand how big 174 is. So in terms of Section 174 of the Criminal
Yes.
Procedure Act, it means that you as the accused, there is not a prima facie case against you, period. So you do not have to answer to anything at the close of the state's case.
Nkile ufile motho sethunya. You don't have to answer for that.
174. No, my jaw hit the ground. I could
No.
not believe it. Because Section 22 of the Firearms Control Act, it says, as a licensed firearm holder,
Yes.
and I'm over 21, I can give you, Mac, the gun to shoot and fire with supervision. Yaga. That's what the act says.
Yes.
Is this not what happened? Did he not have a licensed firearm, this co-accused?
Yes. Andre Sneeman.
Did he not hand the firearm to his co-accused? Was he not present at all times when the firearm was shot? So Section 22, how in God's green earth was he acquitted? I don't understand.
This brings me to a very important question, right? Because this is what the court of public opinion has been saying. This is what people have been saying. I remember having a conversation at some point where we were speaking about how South African judges or magistrates or the sort of legal system in this country, because of our history, is afraid to do and say certain things. And here we're speaking about the issue. I know I digress a bit, but I just want you to maybe to take me through this as well. Is that, there was the issue of fracking out in, I think in the Northern Cape. They wanted to go do fracking there. And there were these environmentalists that were fighting against fracking, the South African Petroleum Association came out and said, guys, fracking has never, ever, ever, in very few places in the world has fracking endangered lives, poisoned rivers, did this and this and this, because those are all the points that were being made by the environmentalists. Then the counter argument was the fact that there's 200,000 people here whose lives could change overnight if we could frack and we're able to take out gas in the Karoo. Their lives will change, jobs will be created. So are we going to disadvantage these people, not give them an opportunity, leave them as previously disadvantaged individuals because of environmentalists that don't even have it, but because of the unfairness of where our history comes from, everybody's stance and voice needs to be heard. At some point, there's got to be a turning point. Yeah. The laws in which the way in which laws have been made, the laws that we follow, because human life and how we as Black people have constantly been judged by our courts has never been fair. Yeah. And we're starting to see that. Yeah. And now my question is, would you say we're in a moment of crisis, transition, or opportunity when we see all of these things that are happening right before our eyes? Because before, it was a small snippet in the news, right? Should there be a change? Should there be a different way in which our laws, our constitution, and the way that things are run in this country should be looked at?
I agree with you fully. There has to be a massive change. The fact that the Constitution made it seem as if the laws in South Africa have changed. There's this beautiful piece of legislation that can be applied. There's access to courts for people who did not have access to courts. There is all sorts of happiness around the law.
Rainbow Nation.
One dollar.
Rainbow Nation. Rainbow ye.
Rainbow yenana is colorful for others and not for others. Do you see? And what people don't get, the Criminal Procedure Act itself, 1975.
And apartheid law.
1975. It keeps getting amended, Gadi case, as they come. In South Africa, up until 2004, Hane gets a first year vits. Do you know how Black women could not inherit from their husbands' estates? 2004.
2004.
What changed it is the Bear case, because our estates when we died were not dealt with by the Administration of Deceased Estates Act. No. It wasn't dealt with by the Wills Act. No. We had the Black Administration Act up until 2004. It was repealed in its entirety. Case, yeah, it was a class action suit. It went all the way up to the Constitutional Court, wherein this woman, when her husband died, she was deprived. Her and her kids.
Yes.
She now was basically homeless. She didn't have money. And then she's like, but make it make sense. Why is it going to his family or the eldest male on his side? When we have babies, I would understand if they were adults.
Yes, that can look after them so they can fend for themselves.
You know what I mean? But they're babies. What am I supposed to do? And then the Concord said, this piece of legislation is absolute nonsense. But that's one of how many that were repealed. The Trespassing Act, all legislation in South Africa is old. None of them, very few are made post-apartheid. And those that are not dealt with or are not taken to court are the ones that can reform a lot of things. And what prevents them from being taken to court? Chalet. Because our people who are suffering
under those laws yes.
do not have the money to take it to court. Access to court is not a real thing. Access to court, it's not a real thing. And attorneys are expensive. The most cheapest attorney you will have is still expensive. So with that, you can't go to court. Children's Act, Italy, no, got 2008
yes.
for the right of children.
Yes.
Why? Do you see? And now my thing is, when most of us, when we decide, or at least I hope, most of us, when you go, I want to go do law, I want to go help people, that is the real thing. I was lucky enough, I think, that when I did my articles and about 3 years post-articles, I worked in legal aid.
Yes.
So legal aid, you work with the poorest of the poor and people who have zero access to the law. So now you have to literally, for lack of a better term, dumb down the law
yes.
so that the client can understand
or
what
make it
is
palatable
happening.
Yes.
So you're in court trying to explain, okay, today I postpone because, and then the next thing, and then so that they can hear what you're saying.
But there's also so many social issues that come with that, right? Now, how postpone if I'm supposed to go to court? Hossein, just to see if I can maybe get justice. But because of the way that the law is now, how do I postpone it? Now I'm sitting thinking, I don't have money to come again on a different day or whatever. You know what I mean? So cases end up being thrown out.
Yes.
Cases end up not seeing, the justice ends up not being served, even if it was for the advantage of the person or even maybe even against them, right? But the mere way in which the law could have been applied is then disadvantage to the poorest of the poor, because when you make that postponement, 1,000 other things, or the fact that this was the only day that I could get off work.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
You can't keep doing this. So it is a disadvantage to our people. And that is the one thing that I maybe even feel that in terms of mainstream media, we're not dealing with those kind of things. So the sort of social issues behind the law that our people constantly keep getting disadvantaged on. How many people are languishing in jail as a result of that?
And a great number of them don't even know why. When you sit and talk to boy accused, prison, well, legal aid was almost literally every single week I'd be in prison so that I can go and talk to my clients and prepare them for what's coming. And then there are others, because you're a legal aid attorney, they see you frequently at court for postponements. Hey, Mam Dubazana, listen, man, can I quickly 2 minutes of your time? This is what happened. This is what happened. Can I go? They have a private attorney. They don't have a legal aid, because legal aid will be my colleague in that particular region, right? And then they'll be like, yo, I have this private attorney, X, Y, and Z. So after they explain to you what is happening, now you have to bring it to them so they can understand where the matter is at, what they should request going forward. My colleagues, not all of them, but my colleagues don't explain to their clients the law so that you understand what you're getting yourself into when you go forward. You know what I mean? And this is part of the reasons why when opportunities like this come, if I can equip you so that you don't need an attorney until it is at a point whereby now we're dealing with the rules of the court, not just the basics. Then it's a different story. Get equipped. Know hore na tokelo tsa hao ke difeng before you get into a court. And it irks me because the law is not palatable to everybody. It is not easily accessible to anybody. I don't care how educated you are.
It's even written in a language that most of our people don't understand.
They don't get it.
You know what I mean?
And melao ena ke ya kgale, boholo ba yona, and they're still oppressing us. We're not free because there's a podcast I was watching where magistrates were complaining about ease of access to courts. They were talking about it from a point of presiding officers. But what I feel like they missed is that you are forgetting that the people that go there, sabakopala the gatekeepers. Because you walk into court, the first thing you're going to ask is, can I ask where divorce court is? When you get to divorce court, you're going to find a clerk of the court there. That clerk of the court is not going to explain anything to you. Yes. But they don't explain to you what is the process. Baofa form, fill this in, how the delay come back. Okay, but what am I doing?
What am I filling in? What am I saying? Man.
And then how your matter is not going to be heard or dealt with because the rules of the court are not followed in your papers. Maintenance. But maintenance. You go to maintenance court, you ask assistance. They give you a form. They don't explain to you how you should fill in a maintenance form so that when you get in front of a maintenance officer, it is not thrown out. Yeah, but anyway.
Okay, it's a lot. This looks like it's going to be a long ride. So, we touched on a little bit Julius, right? But we cannot speak about Julius without also mentioning Afri Forum, right? Afri Forum, for those that do not know, I just maybe want you to take us back to who they are, number one, how they got involved in this, and why is it that their cases are being heard and given so much air?
So from the history we know, it stems from solidarity, right?
Solidarity.
Oh, okay. I can't say that. So anyway, it's not from solidarity.
Yes.
So it's a group that was formed to assist the minority, specifically Afrikaner minority in South Africa.
Yes.
Last I checked, I think they were sitting on like 500,000 members or families or something like that.
What's the villain genocide?
Yeah.
Oh, we're not going to go there.
We're not going to touch that.
Okay.
We're not going to touch that.
Okay.
I think they came out to say they did not say there's a genocide.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So,
Okay.
Okay. So with that, the Afri Forum is their legal arm that assists them in all things that protect them as a minority. Why? Because they feel like as a minority, their rights, their culture, their very existence is being challenged by the new era of South Africa.
Shame.
South Africa has only been free 30-something years. 33? Really? In 3 decades, your existence is being challenged. Okay, it's fine. So now, with that, it's a non-profit organization or an NGO. So with that, members or people who are part of it can pay into it. Those payments then assist with all these things that they are doing, right?
Okay.
All legal battles, all any and everything that they want to deal with in the legal sphere. So with that as a foundation, now we're looking at things that they have been doing. Now, if we look at, for example, when they are fighting, I think it's the NHI bill. They are saying that it's going to affect the minorities because it's going to give a lot more people access to healthcare.
Or so, like in simple terms, because maybe I don't understand it. So, have everybody in the same hospitals? Oh, they don't want to be with blacks.
Even though they won't say that.
Yes. Oh,
yes.
okay.
Those are not the words that are being used.
Access to other people means already hospitaling. Okay. No, it's a good right to fight for.
You see. And then there was also the Bella Act. They fought that in that the education system, I think also it involved the Afrikaans language, that it's now going to be abolished as a direct result. We're not being given the right to have education in our own language.
Oh. 1976, kind of, what was it about?
Yeah, I don't know. Oh, hey.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's when Afrikaans was.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, Afri Forum, you busy, man.
And yet in 2026, when you make an application to public schools, Afrikaans is offered as some of the compulsory languages you have to deal with.
And also, I till now, I stand to be corrected. If you fail Afrikaans, you could fail.
You could fail.
Oh, okay. Because Afrikaans is important to speak as Mosotho. Okay.
Correct.
All
so
right.
now when
Afri
it comes, and then when it comes now to people that challenge them directly,
Yes.
that challenge the status quo of the country, in that we are, like I said, in my opinion, when it comes to the legalities of the country, we are far from free.
Yes.
As a black nation. In fact, I hate that term. I don't like calling us black. We're African.
Yes.
I feel like it's derogatory because I'm wearing black jeans. I don't look like this.
Exactly.
For me-
Brown the coffee color. The cappuccino.
So the term you're black and
Yes.
but anyway, we're African. And as a direct result, we are not having what is supposed to be ours. We're supposed to be free. We're supposed to be able to move freely, speak freely, do everything freely. Yes, the Constitution exists and it limits our freedoms to a certain extent, Section 36
Yes.
of the Constitution. But with that, if I happen to say something that makes you feel offended, the first thing you do, you're going to run to court. So let's see. It was what they killed the Boer case.
Yes.
It went straight to court. Why? Because Julius Malema is threatening to kill Boers. He is inciting violence.
Yes.
Let's look at the history of the song. It went all the way to the Concord, and the Concord did exactly that and said, look at the history of the song. If it was to incite violence, people who are hearing it know the history of the song. It does not say, go and kill the Boer. Where are you interpreting this? And it was thrown out. So now it's like, okay, now I don't know where that case ended actually, where they were lobbying for the old South African flag to not be recognized.
Yes.
Oh no, I think it was, they were told that it is treason.
Yes.
And it is therefore illegal for you to display that flag. Yeah, that was where it ended.
That's the ruling that was given. Yes.
That was the ruling that was given. Why? Because we feel as the Afrikaner that if we don't display that flag, our rights are being trampled upon. Section 36 again. But also, let's look at the history. You need to take things in the context.
Yes.
In which they are from and what they do and all of that.
The rights Sabona as a minority are far more important than the legacy of an apartheid flag which killed thousands and oppressed people. It's important that we must uphold that kind of history.
But don't forget, apartheid was not a human crime, a human rights.
A crime against you. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Even after the UN declared it as such. Don't forget that.
Yeah, we forget
yes,
this
it was a horrible, horrible time, but it's not a human right violation.
All right.
And then we go further and we talk about the prosecutions. Juju is always at the forefront of the prosecutions.
Yes.
So, here's the thing. They take it under the umbrella of private prosecution. But the way private prosecution works, I think it's Section 7, if not Section 9 of the CPA, Criminal Procedure Act,
Yes.
wherein if the state believes there's not enough evidence to prosecute, they will issue out a nolle prosecuted certificate.
Yes.
And then you as a private individual can choose to take up and run with it in the criminal court. So if they don't do that and take up a nolle prosecute situation, they then go and gather evidence and act as the complainant so that the state can run with the case, this case that we were talking about earlier.
Just balance me here.
Yeah.
What in the world does the Afri Forum have to gain from the rest of Julius Malema? What do they hope to achieve if Julius Malema gets arrested?
I think when we look at the way he speaks, he doesn't speak like Thabang Magoa. I think that is the thing.
That is their biggest fear.
I think- Are you allowed to say that on your podcast? I'm asking for a friend. Akelwan.
Oh, this black.
Akelwan.
Die swartiki. He moet nie so met ons praat nie.
But
Okay.
yes, because when you speak out, you will be victimized. You will be dealt with in one form or another. There was a podcast, that is Kakan.
Oh, yes. SC's Kakad, yes.
SC. He said the same thing. I've been persecuted because I speak out. Our fraternity is not friendly. It is white, male dominated, period. It's nothing you can say. You see a lot of us on TV because we're being interviewed or we're representing so and so. We are low hanging fruit. We're here. We're not even in the middle. We're here. In our fraternity. Speak up. See what will happen to you. Talk about what happens in the legal fraternity and see what will happen to you. That is what I feel. I could be very wrong. And I don't want them coming after me. I am painting them in a certain picture. I don't know what they're thinking.
Yes.
But from the way in which we perceive from the outside, you would see, or it seems as if because he's outspoken and he's challenging every part that deals with the oppression of the African, they are going to take it up. Land expropriation without compensation is also a big issue for them.
Yes.
Because they're saying it is for my great-great-great-grandfathers. You can actually trace it back to a certain time. That my great-great-great-great. We have lineage, even though it's not written down. We know for a fact, they migrated from. You have that history. So because Yarona, it's not written down, it should be trampled upon.
Of course.
Because
this is far more important. I can hope what's white is far more superior to what's black. So Kluang with your little history and lineage and your stories. It's stories. I cannot tell it's stories because it hasn't been written down. It's folklore.
It's folklore.
Hey,
yeah, that's what it is. You know? And that for me, I was saying to my husband, well, I keep saying to my husband, whenever we have these kinds of discussions, I'm like, we cannot in 30 plus years eradicate what happened over 400s of years, 400-500s of years. It's not possible.
We can't. Because
you cannot.
It was also a psychological thing, right?
Yes.
The H.F. Verwoerd, the architect of apartheid, studied the psyche that would lead to this. That whether it be 100, 200, 300 years, the long tail of apartheid would still be stinging, right? Because it was a psychological thing that happened. It wasn't just about you're blacks, you're whites, be separated. No, it was in the education system. It is in how we were treated. It is in where we were placed. It is in all the things that they did to us to break us as a people. That even till to this day, when you walk into a shop, and there's a white security guard, he follows you. Nkapaka BM, nkapaka Messi, nkapaka Porsche.
It doesn't matter.
Right? Kafitaka kena ka shopong. The white security guard will follow me, but they won't follow the white person.
Never.
That is the long tail of apartheid that has been engineered from 300 years ago. So they mustn't come here with that bullshit.
No.
They can't.
They can't. And for me, I always say this whole kumbaya, Rainbow Nation, was the real problem. If we look at, I'm not saying Zimbabwe is in the best shape ever.
Or a great example.
Or a great example for that matter. But what Robert Mugabe did, and this is my opinion, I'll probably be crucified for it. I cannot doubt. What Robert Mugabe did and said, fuck off. Let us figure out for ourselves what we are going to do with our land. And then what did they do? They sacrificed him. The whole world put Zim here and they sacrificed it. Look where it's at now. Look where it's at now.
They sanctioned them. They sanctioned them. They killed them
death.
because they stood up for themselves.
To death. Rona, what did we do? We kumbayad. And we didn't want people to know because if you talk to people our age and younger, they still believe that apartheid was a better time versus what it is now. Why? Because we had food, we had lights, but where were you? Where were you? And was that sufficient? You were put in a concentration camp.
You know, it's interesting that you say this because it's almost the same conversation that I had a while ago with Faith Mangope when she was here, when you spoke about the construct of a township, right? And what that has done. And, you know, a lot of the time, because especially Majita, you know, it's that thing where, and I look at these guys and obviously, because I don't know, we speak with accents and went to good schools, you know, so, and so people think that we perhaps grew up with silver spoons in our mouths, right? And there's a huge disconnect that, guys, I know why location was put there, right? Be proud of where you come from, but do not make it as if it's some sort of a level of elevation because you come from that. Because where you come from is a place that was supposed to dumb you down. It was a place that was not supposed to give you a future. It was a place that was not supposed to see you succeed. You were put in that place so that you could wake up early and go serve the white master. So that there's nothing about being proud of Puma out of there and go see what the real world looks like. Go see what the real world looks. Look at where they were putting you so that you couldn't be able to see this. And once again, the construct of apartheid, it wags its tail in each and every place. And now we're seeing it playing out in our courts.
Yes.
We're seeing it playing out in our courts. I mean, when you wanted to be a lawyer, I mean, and it's a beautiful thing to understand and know because you want to fight for the rights of those that feel disenfranchised. When you joined the fraternity, was it a wake-up call to realize, or no matter what I'm studying, what I'm being told is not what is happening when you start, going into the courts and start experiencing what the law actually is?
The practical application of the law versus what we're taught at school, two different worlds.
Chalk and cheese.
It goes further when it gets into the courtroom. One look, it's enough. They know who you are. You're Mac. You are the guy, the journalist. Air court. As a black guy who is Mac, who is clean. Air court. See how the narrative changes. Immediately. There's nothing worse in my career, and I'm finding so once I've opened my firm, more so than when I was an employee. It is so much harder to be an attorney when you're working for yourself because you don't have somebody who's going to take the brunt for you. And then everybody else is going to be on your neck. And what my firm has ended up dealing with is that I represent more men than I do women. And there is nothing worse than that. Representing men is hard. And not hard because of the person that you're representing. Representing men in a court of law is hard because already as soon as you walk in, you're guilty. I fight, I'm not going to speak for anybody else.
Yes.
I fight so hard to try and make the man that I am representing look like a human being first.
Before anything else.
Because one of the saying the black man is always a suspect. Yes. It is very hard to represent men. And then when you come out as a woman to say, gender yaron can be very evil. And then when you say that, you are an empath. These are pick me. We're the pick me girls.
Yes.
Because we want men to recognize us. Because it's already court versus what you guys see in the media, two different worlds. The rape. We were at a party, go, and then he did this, he did that. Let the facts court. Do you know how many rape cases are fake? Versus what we see. Do you know how many women kill men versus what we see in the media? And I'm not speaking this because now my life is rosy. And I've said this...
but you're at the cold face of it. You see it. You defend it. You hear of it.
But people know because when you've lived a life of privilege, Nthabiseng Dubazana, when I'm protected. That's not the case. I've said this, I think, on one interview, I think about 7 years ago or something on Metro, 7 or 8 years ago.
Yes.
A random call. Actually, that's what started everything, that Mia can get into interviews. I just called randomly on Metro this one time. And I'm driving home. And show ya Tibo Touch. And he's back on the drive now, I think, again. So then he was also on the drive. And then they were talking about not only the court process, but also they were talking about a rape. So I'm listening, I'm bored. I'm driving from Nigel to Cosmo. That's where I lived. Cosmo. Imagine my life.
Yes.
But anyway, so I call in. And I'm like, no, my Offense was still the producer at the time.
Yes, I know
so Offense answers.
Fancy light.
Yes. So he answers, and then I tell him why I'm calling in. It's like, I didn't know how radio works. So I thought I could just call in and then they transfer me. It's like, no, I'll call you back. I feel like your story is long.
Yeah.
We'll call you back. So in fact, they call me back. And then I put it on, I explain court process that what they're saying is incorrect and blah, blah, blah. And then I talked about how rape cases... Banna are always framed and then he threw a question to me, Tibotaj, and he said, but isn't it that we should protect women? It sounds like how Bua, it's like you're saying that women are wrong. And when maybe you haven't experienced something like that, I'm like, Touch, nah, I have gone through rape. I was molested as a kid. And by my own family, by my own brother, from age 5 to almost a teenager. So when I started doing biology, then you start seeing, whoa, wait. That's when I spoke up. And then I told my mom, imagine telling your mother that her son is doing what he's doing.
Yes.
And then obviously the first reaction is it can't be.
Yeah. Umaka.
No. But then I think after a day or two, then she went and alomo confront, and then all hell broke loose. So that was that. Family again. Case. I was a kid basically. So for me, it was neither here nor there.
Yes.
But I just needed to make sure that I don't get blamed for what might happen should I fall pregnant as a direct result of what I'm learning at school.
Yes.
So, and I also remember Michelle, can I give Michelle Mang?
Michelle Craig.
Michelle Craig.
Yes, Michelle Craig.
She made, there was a sitting where they were talking about the life.
That round table, the round table.
Yeah,
yes.
but it was with us I was part of the audience, but I was the legal person in the audience.
Yes.
Should the death sentence come back?
Yes.
In relation to rape cases. So when I spoke against the death sentence because of what I'm telling you, that what we see in
because
court.
of what's happening in court. Yes.
One of the politicians there, I think it was, I forgot who he was, but he was from Action SA. Because no, you are assuming. You are assuming who I am. And I'm like, I know what that is, first-hand experience. Because when I was 21, he tried it again, my big brother, but I was big enough and I was able to fight him off.
Yes.
But I know what that is. But I also know the flip side, that my gender can be just as horrible as the other gender.
Because you can weaponize it, right? And that's how it's used. It's weaponized.
It's
yes.
done.
I mean, how many cases have we heard already? Mushimane doesn't pay Mavuso, all of a sudden he's raped. We've heard that all. And it's not to take away the fact that, yes, we do have gender-based violence in this country. Yes, there are men that rape, but there are also women that weaponize this so they can be able to get money out of men. How many? I mean, I've had many guys. Otherwise, you know, where it was very consensual. But the fact that Chelte hates you, all of a sudden it turns to rape. We know of that. We cannot sit here and say that this does not happen because that then is bullshit. Let's be fair when it comes to this. I want to go back to something that's very, very important here, because with all that you know, with all that you experienced, you mentioned the fact that, you know, it was very different when you left being employed to running your own firm. The things that we've spoken about and some of the things that you've mentioned, did they make that decision easier for you to say, you know what, Kiabona, where I am, and I see the hierarchy, I see the nonsense, this is where I'm going?
The decision to leave for me, really, it had a very small bit with the hierarchy. I don't think I was as exposed to it as I became to see when I was now running my own firm. It was a situation of the money is not making sense. I am literally pouring water into a well that has a bucket that has a hole.
Yes.
And I had to sit my husband down. You can see Raperisha. And at the time, and at the time, my mom was living with us, my uncle was living with us. We had just had our son, my daughter. Busy.
Yeah, typical African home.
Yes. So now it's a situation. And there's already going to be money. All I'm saying is that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So we need to ask, can we change? And he's like, okay, give me accounts. Like, you know, a map of what you have in your head.
Yes.
Pitch it to me so that into this dream with you. 1 foot in, 1 foot out.
Yes.
So that we do this together. So now, task, my goodness. But anyway, I did it. I did the research to the best of my ability. And at the time, I think I already had a slot on Power FM. Li Iman Rapeti.
Yes,
I was
yes.
still with Legal Aid at the time. So I was like, okay, I will use it as a way to push the business, all of that. So I put that down in point form and I explained it to him. He's like, okay, give me a month. Let's pay off the small Angana car, the Peugeot that he bought for me. So he's like, let's pay off this Molangana car so that at least one debt is gone.
Yes.
I've only been working legal aid post-admission at the time for 3 years.
Yes.
I own a pension fund. My payout was 50K.
Literally
50K. So payout to 50K. Salary I was earning more than him. And we're already not making ends meet.
Yeah.
So now it's like a salary. Salary ki a higher one, But what that taught me is that the barriers into entering this field on your own,
Wow.
because you have to register the firm, then you have to go through the LPC, the Legal Practice Council. The LPC now has to bauveta.
Yes.
Bauveta hore na can you do this? How also shapua ka the fees? This is fella. You need to pay your yearly fees. You need to pay this. You need to pay this. How na chele? Where are you paying all of these things?
So barriers to entry, even in the legal fraternity, are like that.
They're like that. And then how patala we tshwara taking you're like now you're like, now what? How not lying? Do you remember?
Yes.
How not lying? How am I supposed to advertise? And you can't advertise like a normal advertisement for a firm because it's called touting. And how shut down. Now what? So I remember, because my last day was the 31st of May 2019. It was a Friday. The Monday was the 3rd of June 2019. Ke dutse Randburg Court, dressed in my everything zipped formal. It's a court. I can't only a single client. And I went to Randburg Court because that's where I served my articles. I know everybody there. I'm like,
Yes,
something.
yes.
Yeah, and then I said them like, I am becoming the attorneys that I don't like, that sit at court the whole day. But
accident. Yes, I get you. Not me.
I did it for a week. The second week, I sat my mother down. I don't know how I'm going to tell my husband this. It's not going to work. You're court every day. And a bumper client 500 rand here, 300 rand there.
No, guys.
It's a bailey.
No. I didn't go to law school for this.
For this?
Yeah.
It's not me. But I don't know what I'm going to do. But in your court is not going to happen. So a senior attorney that I'd known since Gile candidate attorney,
Yes.
Mabunda, he gave me space for 6 months, rent-free. Sort yourself out. Once you have stood on your feet, then we can talk about the rent and.
Yes.
So after those 2 weeks, then I don't check Twitter. I have a Twitter account. It's a bit on X.
Yes.
Twitter. So I don't check Twitter. It exists because it exists. But one day, being bored, not having a client, I go onto my Twitter, Kifumana a DM. It was from Bongani, forget his surname, ENCA producer.
Yes.
He had heard me on Shoya Iman. And then he said, please come analyze whatever case it was. I don't even remember what it was. Live on air, Le Braden. And then he gave me a date and whatnot. But I have a bail application in Inaching. I'm not going to make it. Like, no, I'll move it for you. When will you be done? I give him an estimate. I'll move the interview. He moved the interview. I came and I did my first ever TV interview as a result.
Yes.
Why am I telling you these stories? I had access to radio and TV. Not all of us do.
What happens to those that don't?
Exactly. So that's what helped me to make the business not shut down, because people heard my voice, people saw my face. So Thabang, the barriers are higher because it has to be word of mouth. Or you have to pay somebody to give you some work.
Yes.
And you don't have money to pay anybody. But there's a lot of law firms about but all of them are suffering because they have to grease a palm. I'm not going to try and front. They have to grease a palm
Good.
to get a client.
Even the lawyer, the people that are in charge of the law.
Hey.
Guys.
Because just for me to get MacG as a client, how monna akonzame MacG atle honna, you have a lot of divorce cases. Mpe A1. Okay, I mpe finder's fee here. Finder's fee. I don't have a client. What am I gonna pay you with? So no, Sham. It happened to
No, it must. I like, it's for me. It's almost heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Right. To think that, imagine if the opportunity was given the same way that it does for other people, where my uncle has a law firm or there's this big law firm, and you can just walk in there and go serve your time, and it's a story for another day.
Yeah.
We have spoken about case Julius Malema.
Yes.
But there's another one that's boiling. Hunale, a kettle that's boiling and boiling very hard, and this is Fanie Nkosi, right? Someone who, when you look at the police, is supposed to be right here.
Yeah.
It almost takes me back to Jackie Silebi, right? Where I think, in fact, that's where the rot started, or that's when the rot was actually put into the public arena. Because I'm sure Jackie Silebi now is picking up somebody else's rot. It's just been rotten, but we're now starting to see it come to the forefront, right? This commission has led to the arrest and suspension of Fanie Nkosi. Right? You speak about the problems within the legal fraternity. How to Sheba what's happening in our police services. Does that make you lose hope for this country, or does it make you feel like we are in deeper trouble than we actually know?
You guys are only seeing it now.
Thanks, guys. It's been great. I'm leaving. But # I'm staying. Sharp. I'm leaving. What do you mean?
You guys are only seeing it now. When we cross-examine these people in cases, you start realizing how there's such a huge gap in terms of the knowledge of the law and SAPS. SAPS is molao. Remember, I said to you in the beginning that molao is legislature and case law.
Yes.
There is no, and I said, both, please don't get me wrong, but there's no gap that is being, there's no gap. If the law changes as a direct result of a case, how education for them to know. That's why when you go olobula your A1 statement, so your complainant statement,
yes,
got domestic violence, got theft, whatever, the questions they ask you are mundane because they're based on outdated rules of what that case is about. Theft is a
court order maintenance. Court order where the court said Tsama Olola Tangwana, and if they hana kangwana, those people must either be arrested or charged because they are going against what a law that the court has prescribed. Court order. Police officer, court order. The court is ordering you. But I was not there. And unfairly so, if there was the same thing when it comes to domestic violence, right? Or a protection order, because that is also an order of the court.
Yes.
Now, as a guy, would have been arrested, coming close to the woman or doing something like that. But when there's a court order, no, how the child is living with you, so me afentate wana.
Yes.
Okay, what are you not understanding?
Yes.
Or no, was she the lile court of no? Hi, it's a protection order. A protection order. I ali one. And I must adhere to that protection order. This is a court ordering limfengwana. And in fact, we're not discussing because as a policeman, you are being ordered by the court to enforce.
That's what you deal with. That gap is serious. And how, like I said, because this is a civil matter, or a domestic matter.
But yes.
But
we get yes. Will tell you when we get at level, but telling them what they should know.
They should do. That is the gap I'm talking about. How about as it is practically applicable? But there is a court order. That's why it gives leeway even into court itself. How Mewa Wanaka has violated the court order, has refused Kangwana on this date and that date. And then Obore, I want either enforcement or for this person to be held in contempt of court. What happens when you go to court? There's a handful of cases where women are arrested for contempt of court. Handful.
Or even appear.
Or even appear.
Or even appear.
When a domestic violence court order comes out automatically with a warrant of arrest, it accompanies it every single time. There's a case law that says that the judge was actually quite angry at the woman in that case and says a protection order already, when you make the interim, is already against the alleged perpetrator, because Leona interim, it comes out already with a warrant of arrest. And you, as the perpetrator, are not given an opportunity to come and defend yourself. Get the interim. The only time you get to defend yourself is when it gets to the actual date, the hearing. So up until the moment from the moment the interim is issued, up until you go and appear, if you put one foot wrong or you say hello the wrong way, that warrant of arrest is used against you. But you were never there to defend you. And what does our law say? Our law has what we call the audi paltrum rule, the right for you to defend yourself, to hear the other party. That Domestic Violence Act deprives the other party of that right, because in its nature, it's supposed to be protective and urgent. What happens to domestic violence cases? They drag on for years. For years. Where's the urgency in that? And this gap is not taught to Maponisa, and yet they are expected to enforce the law. So if you don't know those kinds of things and the nuances of the law, you won't know. Either you're going to know you're breaking it or you're going to break it intentionally.
That's why our prisons are full.
Exactly.
That's why our prisons are full, because a lot of people do not understand these nuances, do not have the luxury of good lawyers, do not have the luxury of being explained to the laws of this country.
Yeah.
So is that why Fanie 170 bullets in his house and cases and dockets and whatever?
Yeah, no, strong. And it's a result of who system. It was rotten from the inside in the first place. And you are walking into it and you are like, okay, if it's what they do in Rome, so here I am.
But how do you take docket high? I mean, that is basic knowledge. Ungadi docket is wrong when put it there and then we say there was no interference. I know that he's been charged and there's obviously the legal process that is following it, but someone at the helm of the police fraternity, like a Fanie Nkosi, should definitely know that this was illegal.
I think there is this whole situation, because I'm at the helm. It won't get to me.
The long arm of the law.
The long arm, no.
Okay.
But it's very, very long. That's what people tend to forget. And it does get to where it needs to get most of the time. And yes, in the field that we're in, even law civil is a company like Leona Legal Aid or NPA, or even if you're a judge or a magistrate, sometimes you do not have the time to do everything at the office. You are permitted in one form or another to take your work home. So you can take the file home, you can take the docket home, so that tomorrow you can execute what you need to execute. But that's your file. It's mandated to you. So you can have that kind of leeway. Well, let's say it's about 12 bandi batlang when. Make it make sense.
You see what the problem is?
Make it make sense.
That's what the problem is. In any case, it's about Thabang.
They weren't hit, or not even in his jurisdiction. And I think that's the real crux of the issue. People who shoot will tell you 100 bullets is nothing. Boxing 150. It's fine. The bullets the issue about he violated the Firearms Control Act, also mounted safely. I get it. He's not being charged with unlicensed firearms or unlicensed illegal ammunition. That would be a completely different story. In terms of Firearm Control Act, he's a licensed carry person. The issue is that therefore negligence, which means if I were to walk in as an unlicensed person and then I take the gun and I fire it off, hopefully he's going to get into trouble. That's what the law says. That's why case juju drives me crazy. So if I go and I shoot your gun and I kill Mac, you are going to be held liable for your negligence. Because where was your gun?
Was it not in the safe?
Exactly.
I mean, you should know it's okay.
You should know better. That's what the Firearms Control... You should know better, you know?
So why was he denied bail?
Suspended police officer Sergeant Nkosi, and this follows that explosive and damning testimony in which he produced at the Matlanga Commission. In fact, he is one of the witnesses who has been on the stand the longest, and his testimony implicates him as being some kind of a middleman between alleged Big Five cartel member Vusimuzi Katmatala as well as suspended deputy.
I want to read that judgment, but from the snippets that I've heard and I have read online, influence. The power that he wields with the position that he has. The fact that he has the dockets of the other provinces, it means he has the kind of long arm to say, where now if you go and testify. Because part of the things, the magistrate are, I fear how you're going to influence the trajectory of this case, the investigation, the witnesses, you are going to interfere. Because we have proof in front of us that you have to docket that are now cold cases. They are not. But do when? So as a direct result of that, I don't believe that letting you out is in the interest of justice. You're going to use your power.
How letting out? Letting out. Okay, I understand you're on a risk, but just don't take me to Khosimampuru. You know what I mean? Why Abale Khosimampuru? Does he even have the legs to make those kind of asks? Right?
No.
But do you think there's something boiling under with regards to Khosimampuru? Because Khosimampuru is a big problem here because they moved Katsi from there, yes.
Because a lot of people you have gotten arrested are serving there. Well, they'll have a nice conversation.
Yes.
That's the conversation he's fearing to have. Okay. Yes. So when you know what you know, yes, you will make those kinds of requests. So I think that is part of the reason he didn't want to go there.
You know, and I know that we're hopping on a lot about what's happening in sort of, you know, but I guess it's part of the news and it's something that we can't run away from. And we've been speaking about the courts. We've spoke about a problematic white lawyer when it comes to the Judicial case. Mbenenge on sex. I say this because Papa was sexta. You know, and I spoke about this, I think, last week, you know, in the podcast, and a lot of people came at me to say, yeah, but you should have followed the casing. Marikinta Mbenenge, number one, was sexta. Yeah. He's a judge. He's somebody that is held in high esteem, was sexta. And
very respectfully, there was nothing wrong with how the respondent began communicating with the complainant, nor with her responses. The respondent then started sending suggestive emojis, and by suggestive I'm referring specifically, Chair, to the closed eyes emoji being used.
Whether he was acquitted or not, or what happened with that case, the mere fact that he is somebody that is supposed to be upholding the law at the highest level, am I wrong in saying or in purporting to the fact that it doesn't sit well with me?
Well, see, now I'm going to speak like a lawyer. It depends.
It depends. It
depends. Because if I'm not mistaken, my colleagues and friends who are in the judiciary, especially judges, not magistrates, they'll correct me here if I'm wrong. But the JSC just recently adopted a sexual harassment policy. In a little but one tall.
Let's not make sure.
It was not make sure.
Okay. So
Kihona Ebang firm, and I think it's a direct result of case under Mbenenge.
Yeah, a sexta. Yes.
Okay. So in terms of the Labor Relations Act, and the Employment Equity Act, here's the thing. If your employer does not inform you of the code of conduct or policy yabona, they cannot now come and hold you accountable for something that they did not communicate to you
In the first place.
in the first place. Right? So the code of good practice in the LRA, Schedule 8, you need to show that there was a consistent application of the rule across the board.
Okay.
So that is why I believe that the tribunal had to find him guilty of maybe some minor misconduct, not gross
Yeah,
misconduct.
not gross misconduct. Hanyane fellows, 60
Hanyane.
I was 6,000.
And then over and above that, they were saying it was between two consensual adults.
Okay.
That's part of the reasons that they put forth.
Yes.
And then because of the main thing was consent that they focused on. The only thing that they said it was a misconduct as a result of him being, I think it was, the consent came because they did this not only during working hours, but also outside of working hours. So this is where the consensual part made it seem most it was an accepted thing.
But the JSC overturned
They
that,
overturned that.
Okay.
And that's
who's
where...
this JSC? JSC Kikimang, who's Google? JSC, why is it that the JSC had, or how much power does the JSC wield to overturn something like that? And why do you think they would have overturned it?
So what they said in their 9-pager, 9 pages
Yes.
of the overturning, they said that the tribunal misconducted themselves. They misled themselves by saying that there was consent between the parties.
Okay.
They did not look at the complainant side at all. And then they went over and above that to ask for representations. This is where my issue is. There's already been a decision that has found this person not guilty of gross misconduct.
Yes.
Yes, he's guilty of misconduct, but it's not enough for him to be suspended or removed or whatever the case may be.
Or disbarred, right?
Yes. So now you are coming and saying that after a judgment has happened, reps. Let me tell you why reps are an issue. Casey, the Emiratia case, the shooting Sunday.
No, yes, the Sunday, this past
Yes.
Sunday now, yes.
The attorney, the shooter, made representations to the state to show cause why he should not be found or he should not be charged at all.
Yes.
A certain defects are now saying, and then the state made the decision not to proceed to prosecution. Representations come before judgment. This is why I'm painting that picture.
Okay.
Before the matter air to trial,
Or
before
whatever.
it's like a pre-trial anything.
Yes. To
That's
see
what reps are.
if this is going to hold water or if there's, if you can substantiate what is going on. Yes.
Why are you making reps after judgment? Why? Why are you requesting reps from the complainant and the accused in this situation so that you can substantiate yourself? And then in your judgment, you are focusing more on the version of the complainant versus the version of the accused.
Yes.
You're saying that her feelings, her perspective was not taken into account. Yes, sexual harassment is always a subjective issue. But with the evidence that was presented before the tribunal, why is it that the facts versus the feelings are being taken into account? And why is the recommendation now a gross misconduct? What did your policy say at the time the charge was leveled against this person? Not that you wanted to change now. In a ring policy,
So there's a discrepancy.
one tall. So I would love to see how this is going to play out because I think that Mbenenge might take it on review to say, make it make sense. And especially if it goes all the way to the National Assembly and then he gets impeached.
So Nthabiseng, here's my thing. With everything that you've said, one, I don't want to go to court. Two, I don't want to be arrested, right? Because clearly, going to court is a shit show.
Yeah.
Being arrested is a shit show,
Yeah.
right? So I want to ask you, should we still trust the police? Should we still have faith in our courts? Should we still, as South Africans, respect the Constitution and the law, knowing and seeing what is happening in our courts, knowing and seeing how people are getting away with murder and seeing the rot that's within the South African police services? I, as a citizen, should I still have hope in any one of these institutions? Because from what is happening and what we are witnessing every day? I don't think so.
You know what? I'm saying give us a chance. Give us time. It's only been 30 plus years. We inherited a system that we didn't know anything about. We're still learning about it. And we are finding a situation. We inherited a really broken situation. Broken because it was leveled against us. So fixing it from the inside, you're either told, because of the long hand or the long tail of apartheid, like you said, you're either going to be one of those blacks that want to fit in because I need to make sure I've got people at home, so I'm going to conform the rot that I find in here.
Yes.
Alternatively, I'm going to stand out over a General Mkwanas and you speak out and then watch everybody everybody's opening a case against Mkwanas for defamation, for this, that, and the other. So give us a chance to try and fight the system from within. Give us a chance to try and... It's not all of us that are a lost cause. It's not all of us that are in it for the wrong reasons. There are a lot of police officers that are trying to do the right thing. And either they get killed or they are marginalized or they are treated horribly within the force and then they retire or leave and rather go do something else because when you're in there, your life is in danger. There's a lot of us attorneys who are trying from the inside to try and deal with the law and the application thereof from the inside, and we get persecuted, we get challenged, we get taken to the LPC, all of those things. We are fighting such a huge battle to try and bring what you deserve as a citizen to the front. But it's only been 30 years. We need more time. This thing, it's our holy. Hundreds and hundreds of years. We need to make sure so that we are bringing you guys with us. And when we do it, don't. If I'm doing wrong, please call me out on it.
Yes.
You have to.
Yes.
Right? That's your right. That's
because
your privilege.
This is the future that we're trying to build and fix. Yes.
But because of the mind games, apartheid, even when you're trying to do right, batho ba rona are the first to attack you. They are the first to tell you, I won't forget, my first ever podcast, David Mashabel. He was a customary marriage. That's what, 5-6 years ago, something like that. The comments that were under that video, scathing. Who are you? Even not legal aid. One time from our people.
From our very own people.
From our very
we are
own
our
people.
worst enemy.
We are our worst enemy. It was something that was tailored. It's not something are like that. No. We live amongst each other. We are compassionate people. We know we look out for one another. But because there's the house nigger, then there is the one who picks cotton.
Yes.
And then those are the how only in management, you're not going to listen to who's picking cotton
is going to say.
You're not, because they're going to disturb the food that you're getting. And that time is not even food, it's scraps, because they're falling from the table.
Yes.
You're not even invited to the damn table.
Yes.
So give us time, because we are trying to create tables that will permit you, who looks like me, to have a voice and not be scared that you'll be ousted or ostracized or whatever because of the way you look. But somebody has to be the martyr. Somebody has to run with that. And please give us grace. We will get there. We will.
We could speak forever. Nthabiseng Dubazana, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure and an honor having you. And the fact that uMosotho wa tseba ke bona fela man. But it's been an absolute pleasure and an honor. Thank you so much for honoring us with your presence on Be Frank with MacG.
Thank you so much.